tonight.
This is the KS118, QSC's brand new flagship 18-inch subwoofer. In this review, we'll be covering the intricacies of the new design, comparing cardioid arrangements, and running sound tests, all while comparing the KS118 to its legendary predecessor, the KW181. Before we get things started, I have to give a huge shout out to QSC because they were kind enough to loan me a pair of KS118s to review. However, I'd like to mention that the thoughts expressed in this video are 100% my own. Right off the bat, you'll notice the KS118 is boasting a number of physical design improvements. For starters, the KS118 is about 5 inches taller than the KW181. This means it saves on precious horizontal space, and it's also going to get your pole-mounted top speakers higher above the crowd. I'm 6 feet tall, and the tweeter of the K12.2 is above my head with the new configuration, which is right where you want it. And this makes all the difference for mobile DJs who frequently work on ground level with the audience. Also, if you're looking for a killer top speaker to match up with this subwoofer, I highly recommend looking into the K12.2. There's actually a review of it up right here on my channel, so if you're interested, it'll be linked in the description. When it comes down to it, every side of the KS118 has been improved in physical design. Starting with the rubber feet on the bottom, which are now larger and beefier. They are very grippy, especially so on carpet, and my hope is that they will result in a reduction of sub-traveling on smooth surfaces. The KS118 has the same large rubber feet on the side of the subwoofer as well, so should you need to flip it on its side, you totally can. The feet receivers on the side of the KS118 are placed to also receive the feet of the KW181. So by putting the KS118 on its side, you can mount a KW181 on top of it securely. Much like the K2 series of speakers, you'll notice a blacked out front grille with the speaker element hidden and protected by a fine black mesh. In the same sense, the addition of a digital interface to the rear mixer follows right in the footsteps of the K2 series, and I think it's safe to expect this as a standard design feature on all of QSC's new active speakers. It just makes it so easy to add a crossover, a delay, or flip into a cardioid configuration, as well as tap into your DSP settings and other various preferences for the speakers. My only question is how, if at all, QSC plans to implement updates to these digital interfaces as new speakers are released. For example, if we dive into the crossover menu on the back of the K12.2, you'll see it gives examples of what crossover to use with each model of QSC subwoofer. It recommends an 80Hz crossover for the entire KS series, but one could argue that the performance specs of the KS118 are more aligned with those of the KW series. But as these digital interfaces are becoming the new standard, advances in technology could certainly warrant a future update with additional features. Just a thought. The newly redesigned and simplified back panel is less aesthetically intrusive than the KW181's, so this makes it perfect for use in a cardioid configuration. Bass is usually omnidirectional, meaning it disperses equally in all directions. Cardioid subwoofer arrangements allow you to directionally aim the coverage toward the audience, which is where you want it. By facing one subwoofer backwards, this allows it to create cancellation through the use of reverse polarity and delays. The cancellation forces low frequencies in the opposite direction, and the KS118s have built-in modes to take advantage of this in an incredibly simple way. So let's jump into some cardioid sound tests. QSC recommends the following 3 configurations in a good, better, best format. Side by side, which is good, stacked, which is better, and back to back, which is best, in terms of total increase in decibel output. The audio for this sound test is being recorded on a Rode VideoMic Pro Plus with a negative 10 dB pad directly into a Sony A7 III camera. The KS118s are set to 0 dB unity, and we're going to be playing music through an iPhone with the volume set to max. I'm also using one K12.2 top speaker as a reference. It's set to a 100 Hz crossover, so the only bass you'll be hearing is from the KS118s. If you've got some headphones nearby, pause the video and put them on to get the fullest possible experience of the sound.
All you cool people, you better leave now, because it's about to happen.
Side by side saves vertical space. Stacked saves horizontal space and has slightly better output. And back to back offers the greatest decibel increase in output but takes up the most space. Where you plan to place your subs in your live sound or DJ setup is certainly a consideration to be mindful of when using cardioid arrangements. You may have noticed that the rear rejection is very impressive with the KS118s. There was this incredible quiet zone back behind the subs that really didn't exist anywhere else in the room, despite it being a confined area. It's safe to say I'm now a believer in the power and purpose of the cardioid configuration, and I can't wait to put this to use at my next event. Now let's do a side-by-side test of the KS118 versus its predecessor, the KW181.
All you cool people, you better leave now, because it's about to happen.
Photos, so antisocial, but I don't care.
Without a doubt, the KS118 hits lower and harder than the KW181 thanks to its 3600 watt peak amplifier. The contrast between the two is best described like this. With the KW181, you hear the bass as it goes by. With the KS118, the bass physically impacts you. That said, in nearly 8 years of using QSC products and as a longtime owner of the KW181, I must say the KS118 really blows me away. I've never heard such deep and impactful low end from a QSC speaker before, not to mention the bass quality of a pair of KS118s in cardioid mode is absolutely jaw-dropping.
We don't want no holding back in here. Ain't nobody singing or rejection. We don't have to be like no one says. Come on, let your feet go to the rest. Just like back in 1994. Come on. I need to know, could you be the one to call when I lose control?
At high output levels, the KS118 maintains tight, deep, and punchy bass, which is one area where the KW181 would sometimes fall behind. These subs really set themselves into a new class for QSC. All in all, the KS118 does literally everything better than the KW181. My only point of criticism is that it weighs a little bit more, but since it has built-in casters, the only time you'll really notice this is while loading and unloading the sub. Thankfully, QSC has reoriented the side handles with loading and unloading in mind, so it's hard to even be upset about the extra couple of pounds because overall it's still going to be less awkward on the wrist to handle it. No matter how you chalk it up, the KS118 is superior in every way, and considering it's being sold at the same price point as the KW181, upgrading is a no-brainer. The KW181 is still a legendary subwoofer, but it's been on the market since 2010 and is now discontinued according to QSC's website. Timing is everything, and an upgrade to QSC's flagship 18-inch sub every decade is definitely not beyond reasonable. So there it is.